From career-destroying arrests to forbidden romances, exile, addiction, and political persecution, the controversial lives of these Golden Age icons reveal the high price of fame during Hollywood's most restrictive era. Some scandals destroyed careers overnight, while others mysteriously enhanced them. Some stars fought back against the system, while others were crushed beneath its weight. What really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? These are the stories the studios tried to bury, the explosive controversies that changed Hollywood forever. Robert Mitchum, 1940s to 1960s. Robert Mitchum epitomized Hollywood's bad boy image both on and off screen. In 1948, his arrest for marijuana possession sent shockwaves through America's movie theaters. The headlines screamed scandal, but Mitchum's response was characteristically nonchalant. "This is like being caught in a whorehouse reading the Bible." Sentenced to 60 days in jail, industry insiders predicted his career was finished. Instead, the scandal enhanced his rebellious persona, making him more marketable than ever. When Rachel and the Stranger was released after his arrest, audiences flocked to theaters, transforming potential career suicide into box office gold. Studio executives were baffled but pleased. Mitchum had turned controversy into currency. His post-arrest performances in films like Night of the Hunter carried a new, dangerous edge that audiences couldn't resist. The marijuana bust didn't destroy Mitchum. It created the template for every Hollywood bad boy who followed. His trademark sleepy-eyed indifference to scandal became as much his signature as any role he ever played. Errol Flynn, 1940s. When Errol Flynn faced charges of statutory rape in 1942, Hollywood held its collective breath. Two 17-year-old girls accused the swashbuckling star of seduction, launching what the press dubbed the trial of the century. Flynn's dashing screen persona, the charming rogue who always escaped danger, was suddenly playing out in a Los Angeles courtroom. The trial lasted an excruciating 21 days, with Flynn's lawyer viciously attacking the accuser's characters, while the actor maintained his innocence with practiced charm. The all-female jury deliberated for 24 hours before acquitting him, but the damage was done. The phrase "in like Flynn" entered the American lexicon, cementing his reputation as a libertine. Though he continued making films, Flynn's career never fully recovered from the shadow of those allegations. His off-screen reputation for womanizing, hard drinking, and drug abuse grew increasingly difficult to separate from his film roles. When Flynn died at just 50, the scandals that had both defined and diminished him became an inseparable part of his legacy, a cautionary tale of fame's dark side. Mae West, 1930s to 1940s. Mae West didn't just flirt with controversy, she invited it to dinner. In 1927, she was arrested and sentenced to 10 days in jail for her Broadway play, Sex, a scandal that followed her to Hollywood. Far from being ashamed, West turned censorship into her brand, famously quipping, "I believe in censorship. I made a fortune out of it." Her provocative persona challenged every convention of female sexuality in film. In 1937, she caused a radio scandal with suggestive dialogue about Adam and Eve that was so shocking it prompted the creation of new FCC censorship policies. Where other actresses feared controversy, West thrived on it. Her films bristled with double entendres designed to slip past censors while delighting audiences with their audacity. "When I'm good, I'm very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better," she purred, making no apologies for her boundary-pushing performances. In an era that demanded women be demure, West strutted through Hollywood on platform shoes, a living, breathing challenge to the status quo. Her controversial legacy wasn't just about shocking audiences. It was about redefining what women could say, do, and be on screen. Charlie Chaplan, 1940s to 1950s. Charlie Chaplin's iconic Little Tramp charmed audiences worldwide, but off-screen, the comedy legend found himself embroiled in controversy that would eventually force him into exile. In 1943, Chaplan faced a paternity lawsuit from actress Joan Barry that became a media sensation. Despite blood tests proving he wasn't the father, a jury ruled against him, forcing him to pay child support and severely damaging his reputation. More devastating was the political witch hunt that followed. Chaplan's outspoken progressive views and refusal to apply for American citizenship made him a target during the Red Scare. J. Edgar Hoover personally directed FBI surveillance of the actor, compiling a 1,900-page file on his supposed un-American activities. In 1952, while traveling abroad, Chaplan learned the U.S. had revoked his re-entry permit. Rather than fight, he chose exile, declaring, "I am not a political man, and I have no political convictions. I am an individual and a believer in liberty." He wouldn't return to America for 20 years when the Academy honored him with an honorary Oscar. Chaplan's controversy reminds us how quickly public opinion can turn, even against the world's most beloved entertainer. Frances Farmer, 1940s. Frances Farmer's Hollywood story began with promise and ended in tragedy, her talent overshadowed by controversy that would eventually inspire books, films, and songs. The striking actress first challenged conventions with her refusal to conform to studio demands, openly criticizing the system that treated actors as property. In 1942, her life unraveled spectacularly when she was arrested for driving with her headlights on during a wartime blackout. Her combative response to police led to more serious charges, and her increasingly erratic behavior raised eyebrows throughout Hollywood. By 1943, she was declared mentally unfit and committed to psychiatric institutions, beginning a 7-year nightmare. Inside those walls, Farmer endured treatments that resembled torture more than therapy: electroshock treatments, insulin shock therapy, and reported physical abuse. When she emerged, the vibrant actress was a shell of her former self. The Hollywood that once celebrated her talent now viewed her as damaged goods. Farmer's controversial fall from grace became a chilling example of what could happen to women who challenged the system, a cautionary tale that loomed over actresses for decades to come. Lana Turner, 1950s. The night of April 4th, 1958, transformed Lana Turner from glamorous film star to central figure in one of Hollywood's most sensational scandals. Turner's 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, fatally stabbed Johnny Stompanato, Turner's gangster boyfriend, in what was eventually ruled justifiable homicide. The tabloids exploded with headlines linking the glamorous actress to organized crime. Stompanato, a bodyguard for mobster Mickey Cohen, had allegedly been abusing Turner. On that fateful night, he threatened both mother and daughter, leading to his death. Turner's testimony at the inquest was front-page news nationwide. Sobbing on the witness stand, she recounted Stompanato's violence while carefully avoiding details that might further scandalize her daughter. Hollywood had seen scandals before, but nothing that combined such explosive elements: a movie star, the mob, and a teenage girl. Rather than destroying her career, the controversy humanized Turner. Her next film, Imitation of Life, became her biggest box office success. The scandal revealed that behind Turner's carefully constructed image was a mother who, for all her flaws, would do anything to protect her child. Ingrid Bergman, 1950s. When Ingrid Bergman fell in love with Italian director Roberto Rossellini in 1949, she wasn't just risking her marriage. She was gambling with the pristine image that had made her Hollywood's most beloved actress. The scandal erupted when Bergman, still married to Dr. Peter Lindstrom, became pregnant with Rossellini's child. The public betrayal was considered so egregious that Senator Edwin C. Johnson denounced her on the Senate floor as a powerful influence for evil, while churches called for boycotts of her films. Hollywood, which had cast her as saintly characters in films like Joan of Arc, turned its back on her overnight. Bergman fled to Italy, essentially exiled from American cinema for 7 years. "I've gone from saint to whore, and back to saint again, all in one lifetime, she later reflected. Her eventual return and Oscar win for Anastasia in 1956 marked one of Hollywood's great redemption stories. The controversy surrounding Bergman revealed the impossible moral standards imposed on female stars and the harsh consequences of defying them. Her exile and triumphant return changed how Hollywood handled scandal forever. Marlon Brando, 50/50s to 60/50s. Marlon Brando didn't just act in controversial roles. He revolutionized acting itself, bringing a raw, psychological intensity that shattered Hollywood conventions. His method approach in On the Waterfront, 1954, transformed how actors prepared for roles. But the film itself sparked controversy within the industry. Brando initially hesitated to work with director Elia Kazan, who had cooperated with the House Un-American Activities Committee by naming former communists. This ethical dilemma reflected the political divisions tearing through Hollywood during the Red Scare. Ultimately, Brando took the role, creating an iconic performance that carried uncomfortable parallels to real-world betrayals. His willingness to embrace morally complex characters continued throughout his career. In Last Tango in Paris, Brando's participation in a graphic rape scene generated international outrage and was later revealed to have been partially sprung on his co-star without proper consent. Brando's controversial approach to his craft, his refusal to memorize lines, his difficult on-set behavior, and his rejection of Hollywood norms made him as notorious as he was revered. He transformed acting while remaining an industry outsider, creating a template for generations of rebels who followed. Elizabeth Taylor, 1950s to 1960s. Elizabeth Taylor's violet eyes may have captivated audiences, but it was her scandalous love life that truly kept them watching. The most explosive controversy erupted during the filming of Cleopatra, when her affair with co-star Richard Burton made headlines worldwide. Both were married to others. Taylor to Eddie Fisher, whom she had famously stolen from America's sweetheart, Debbie Reynolds, just years earlier. The Vatican publicly condemned Taylor for erotic vagrancy, while congressmen demanded she be barred from returning to America after filming. The scandal nearly bankrupted 20th Century Fox as the production spiraled out of control, becoming the most expensive film ever made at that time. Taylor weathered the controversy with remarkable resilience, telling reporters, "I don't pretend to be an ordinary housewife." Her 8 marriages became part of her mystique, and the public's fascination with her personal dramas only increased her box office appeal. Taylor's controversies transformed celebrity culture, shifting the power dynamic between stars and the press. She proved that authentic, unapologetic living, however messy, could be more valuable than any carefully managed public image. Sammy Davis Jr., 1950s to 1960s. Sammy Davis Jr.'s extraordinary talent made him a star, but it was his determination to live without compromise that made him controversial. As a black performer in segregated America, Davis faced racism at every turn. In Las Vegas, he could headline shows, but couldn't stay in the hotels where he performed or gamble in their casinos. The controversy reached fever pitch when Davis began dating white actresses, particularly Swedish actress May Britt. Their 1960 marriage came just 1 year after interracial marriage was still illegal in 31 states. Death threats poured in, and Davis was removed from President Kennedy's inaugural gala reportedly because the administration feared backlash over his interracial relationship. The Rat Pack member later converted to Judaism, joking that he was now the only black, one-eyed Jewish entertainer in the world. Every choice Davis made challenged America's racial boundaries. Despite the enormous price he paid professionally and personally, Davis refused to downplay either his blackness or his relationships. "I have a right to be unusual," he insisted. His controversial life forced Hollywood and America to confront their prejudices, opening doors for performers of color who followed. Kirk Douglas, 50/50s to 60/50s. Kirk Douglas didn't just play heroes on screen. He became one behind the scenes when he took a stand against the Hollywood blacklist. In 1960, Douglas used his star power to demand blacklisted writer Dalton Trumbo receive proper screen credit for Spartacus, effectively ending a dark chapter in Hollywood history. This controversial decision came with enormous risk. Douglas later recalled, "The choices we make dictate the life we lead. To thine own self be true." Years earlier, he had appeared in Billy Wilder's controversial Ace in the Hole, playing an unscrupulous journalist who exploits a man trapped in a cave, a scathing critique of media sensationalism that initially flopped, but later became recognized as a prescient masterpiece. Douglas consistently chose roles that challenged America's self-image, playing deeply flawed characters when other stars insisted on heroic personas. His willingness to embrace moral complexity on screen mirrored his courage in confronting Hollywood's political persecution off-screen. The controversy surrounding Douglas's stand against the blacklist revealed that sometimes the most important roles actors play aren't in front of the camera, but in the moral choices they make when the stakes are highest. Hattie McDaniel, 1940s to 1950s. Hattie McDaniel made history as the first black performer to win an Academy Award, but her Oscar for Gone with the Wind came wrapped in controversy that would follow her throughout her career. McDaniel faced criticism from all sides. White Hollywood limited her to stereotypical mammy roles, while civil rights activists later condemned her for accepting these demeaning parts. The night of her historic Oscar win, McDaniel wasn't even allowed to sit with her castmates at the segregated ceremony, instead being relegated to a small table against a far wall. When she died in 1952, her final wish to be buried in Hollywood Cemetery was denied because of her race. By the 1950s, as the civil rights movement gained momentum, McDaniel was unfairly ostracized for roles that had once made her successful. The very performances that broke barriers also trapped her in controversy. "I'd rather play a maid than be one," McDaniel once said, defending her career choices. Her controversial legacy reveals the impossible position faced by pioneering black performers, forced to choose between no representation or limited, stereotypical roles while navigating criticism from all directions. James Dean, 1950s. James Dean starred in just 3 films before his death at 24, but his rebellious persona and method acting approach created a cultural earthquake that's still felt today. In Rebel Without a Cause, Dean captured teenage alienation so authentically that parents feared he would corrupt America's youth. Studio executives worried about Dean's method intensity and off-screen behavior, which blurred the line between acting and living. He reportedly arrived on set in character, sometimes disheveled and unpredictable. In East of Eden, his emotionally raw performance was so jarring compared to traditional acting styles that some crew members questioned his sanity. His refusal to play by Hollywood's rules extended to his personal life. Dean rejected the studio system's control, giving brutally honest interviews and declining to hide his fluid sexuality at a time when such openness could destroy careers. Dean's premature death in a 1955 car crash transformed controversy into legend. The actor who had embodied youthful rebellion was forever frozen in time, never aging into compromise. His controversial roles captured the restlessness of post-war youth and challenged the conformist 1950s society in ways that still resonate with each new generation that discovers him. Montgomery Clift, 1940s to 1950s. Montgomery Clift's sensitive performances brought a new psychological depth to American cinema, but his personal struggles made him a figure of both admiration and controversy. Unlike many leading men of his era, Clift's approach to his craft was intellectual and introspective. His refusal to sign a studio contract preserved his artistic independence, but marked him as an outsider in a conformist industry. The most profound controversy surrounding Clift was one he couldn't openly acknowledge: his homosexuality. In an era when exposure meant career destruction, Clift lived in constant fear of scandal. Friends described his life as the longest suicide in Hollywood history, as he sought refuge in alcohol and pills. In 1956, a devastating car accident left his face partially paralyzed, adding physical scars to his internal turmoil. The accident transformed his career, with directors now casting him as broken men and freaks. Clift's post-accident performance in Judgment at Nuremberg revealed a raw vulnerability few actors dared show. Clift's controversial life and career embodied the painful contradiction faced by many in Hollywood's golden age, achieving fame while being forced to hide essential truths about themselves, creating art from the very pain they couldn't publicly acknowledge. Judy Garland, 1940s to 1950s. Behind Judy Garland's magical voice and captivating screen presence lay one of Hollywood's most tragic controversies: the systematic destruction of a child star through studio-sanctioned drug abuse. From age 13, MGM executives prescribed Garland amphetamines to control her weight and maintain her grueling work schedule, then barbiturates to help her sleep, creating a dependency that haunted her entire life. The controversy deepened as Garland's addiction led to erratic behavior, suicide attempts, and notorious conflicts with studio heads. Her emotional breakdown during the filming of Annie Get Your Gun resulted in her replacement and suspension from MGM. By 1950, the studio that had built her career terminated her contract, citing her unreliability. Garland's public struggles transformed her from America's sweetheart into a symbol of Hollywood's dark side. "They had us working days and nights on end. They'd give us pills to keep us on our feet long after we were exhausted," she later revealed, exposing the industry's exploitative practices. Her battles with addiction, weight fluctuations, and mental health issues made her both victim and survivor of a system that used performers until they broke. Garland's controversial journey from stardom to tragedy forced Hollywood to confront its treatment of child actors, though meaningful change would be painfully slow. If you've been captivated by these scandalous stories from cinema's golden age, don't keep them to yourself. Hit that like button to help more viewers discover these fascinating Hollywood legends. Subscribe to our channel for more explosive revelations about the stars who shaped film history, and share this video with friends who appreciate cinema's most dramatic off-screen moments. Drop a comment telling us which controversial star's story surprised you most. Was it Mitchum's career-boosting arrest, Bergman's public shaming, or Sammy Davis Jr.'s bold stand against racism? Turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into Hollywood's most shocking secrets and forgotten scandals.